Welcome to the All Brick Road. I am Jordan, and today we're going to look at the Charlie Kirk thing. Kind of not really the conspiracy of it, but more of the idea of Charlie Kirk and like what he represents, but more from the quote unquote left side of things. But first, look at this dweeb. Look at him. This is the great uh, opposition. This midlife crisis, dweeby little fuckface. He's trying to emulate the MAGA bro sensibility, I guess in like a mocking way, but he's like, I don't know. He is horrendous. Uh, Bro, whose asshole are you sniffing coke out of tonight, Kyle? Just tell everyone. Fuck my life. But yeah, Kyle's gonna dance on graves, but then if a uh, Democrat were in office, there'd be so many horrendous human tragedies that Kyle wouldn't be able to open his fucking mouth. So I beg people, left or right, I'm sure right has, quote unquote, right leaning has no problem with this, but I say everyone and anyone. When a Democrat gets in office, we're about the New York mayor race. That's what he's talking. He's talking about Mamdani winning, right? I don't know as much about that guy, but we'll see. But other people, like, actually, I should show this. I think I already did, but I'll show it again. Where is this shit at? Yeah, this. You don't have, Kamala, no. You don't have to do this. It's her kind of eulogizing Dick Cheney, who passed away today. That's Kyle. And don't forget that moment right there where he has this midlife crisis bleached hair, midlife crisis aviators, midlife crisis cigar, midlife crisis chain, and of course, midlife crisis nipple rings. Don't forget that part. Don't forget that. Because once again, people get massacred all over the fucking world. And this guy's out here playing a fucking game while pretending that it's supposed to be like some sort of ultimate, ultra fucking important fucking idea, important topic. Meanwhile, he's playing games. You don't have to do this, Kamala. That's my proof right there, by the way, along with his content alone. But I just showed you a little tweet right there, right? You don't have to do this. Kamala, if she won the presidency, would be massacring people around the fucking world. You don't have to do this? You fucking kidding me? Before we get started, don't forget to share support. Hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We are in the Discord right now. All opinions are welcome, just nothing grotesque or pornographic. That's all I ask for. Yeah, and everything I showed you will be linked in the description box, including this video from guy's name again? Jose from simple last name from Jose, and this is more of a, and he says it in the video because I've watched this already, but I kind of want to show it for everyone else in case it doesn't pop up on their radar. It's like a kind of like a mini documentary as well, written script, edited video, all that stuff. So. And the point is to showcase possibly where the someone on the left, as he calls himself, thinks about the whole Charlie Kirk situation. And I don't mean so much about the conspiracy aspect, but more so like what they're seeing in regards to maybe right-leaning people or, let's be honest, the retconning of Charlie Kirk's political existence. So without further ado, from Jose, claiming the Charlie Kirk legacy. Here we go.
On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was killed
Add
when he
some
was
volume to
shot
that.
in the neck during a speaking engagement on the campus of Utah Valley University. His death sparked an enormous response, particularly on the right wing, where he had a high profile and connections that reached all the way to the White House. Although the shooting was horrific, and we still have a lot of questions about the details around that crime, I'd rather look at the media reactions to the shooting and how in the weeks that followed, opportunists tried to use it for their own ends. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, the overwhelming sentiment from anyone with a major platform, such as politicians and media personalities, offered condolences or general sadness that someone was murdered. Of course, not every reaction was mournful. and we entered a period of 1,000 little controversies over whether or not someone's reaction was considered appropriate, and the backlash on social media from conservatives was intense. One example was when TMZ announced Charlie Kirk's death during a live stream. An employee in the background can supposedly be heard cheering before anyone on camera announced that it had happened.
Go to Trump just posted that Charlie Kirk is dead.
TMZ would later explain that the person was in another room reacting to a car chase. Because of the strong reaction, they still apologized.
What's so happy about a car chase? I don't get that one either. It's 2025. I forgot. Yeah, got it. All right, here we go. We haven't learned our lessons yet. Got it.
Horrible
Still
time.
here.
And for that, we
Makes
are
sense.
sorry. We apologize.
On MSNBC, Matthew Dowd used a turn of phrase that made it sound like he was saying Charlie Kirk brought this murder on himself.
Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Again, following intense backlash online, he was fired. Another person named Laura Sosh Lightsey, who said something similar to Dodd's comment on her Facebook page, was fired from her job when she was highlighted by libs of TikTok. This pattern would continuously repeat over the next few days as anyone expressing anything remotely resembling joy, or in some cases indifference, at the death of Charlie Kirk would be met with a wave of outrage on social media. This includes...
Now, once again, I want to say people that consider themselves right-leaning, I beg you not to just turn the video off. I say stick around. I normally say go fuck yourselves and walk away. Not to right-wingers, but to anyone that says something stupid to me. But in this case, I would beg for you to stay. Granted, you don't have to agree with everything this guy says, by the way. I don't agree with everything this person says. But I would beg you to stick around. To hear like different information and maybe hear different perspectives. Because we all love empathy around here, right? Capital E, empathy. We all love that, right, guys? Because we're all, we love morality and righteousness, right? So even if someone is wrong, we can still hear them out because of empathy, right, guys? So please, I beg you to stick around, even if you disagree with something. So here we go.
Included comments not just on television or being broadcast to large audiences,
Zombie saying he's
but also
right.
personal social
Just saying,
media
by the
and
way.
even comments made in private. It was as if everyone was suddenly having to participate in a mandatory mourning period for Charlie Kirk. A website was soon formed and it claimed to have
I
over
didn't.
20,000 people celebrating Kirk's murder. The website was eventually taken down, though I think that 20,000 people celebrating might be a bit exaggerated, as the very first example on it happened to belong to a Canadian journalist named Rachel Gilmore, and her post doesn't resemble in any way somebody celebrating a murder.
Sorry, I missed it. Terrified to think of how far-right fans of Kirk aching for more violence could very well turn this into an even more radicalizing moment. Will they now believe their fears have been proven right and feel they have right to retaliate regardless of who actually was behind the initial shooting? Yeah, there's no celebration there from what I see here, if this is accurate. Here we go.
And her post doesn't resemble in any way somebody celebrating a murder.
Well, they're
Within
playing
the first few
politics.
days, Dropsite News was able to assemble a list of over 60 people who were fired for views they expressed either publicly or privately about Kirk's murder. In time, this number has grown even further and has even included a few people having their visas revoked and being deported from the country, all because of how they expressed their feelings towards this individual after his death. While there have
Charlie
certainly
Kirk
been
fans would
some
be against
disturbing
that, right?
takes regarding Charlie Kirk's murder, some wishing harm on his wife and children, for instance, definitely cross a line. The majority of these comments seem to be tasteless jokes from edgy teens and clueless adults, and the support they see online doesn't come close to matching the widespread retribution being called for by conservative voices across social media. A comment that gets a few hundred or maybe even 1,000 likes will be responded on social media with calls for this person to be fired, getting hundreds of thousands of likes in response. When sitting politicians and accounts with millions of followers are going after a random teacher with a social media reach smaller than the classroom of the 10th graders she teaches, it seems like overkill. But I wanted to highlight this mob of angry people because it represents what has happened, particularly on the right, after the passing of Charlie Kirk. Many are seizing on this opportunity to fuel their project of destroying the left. One group that was targeted in particular in this early day in the hunt for left-wing people was the trans community. And when the shooter's roommate and potential lover was later accused of being trans, transgenderism, as a tweet with over 32,000 likes put it, was declared responsible for the shooting. All of this is done without waiting for any real investigation or solid evidence. This also is a reminder.
Once again, the reason, sorry for pausing, but I have to really emphasize this. I want to show this because a decent amount of things in this video showcase that you're getting fucking played. If you think like, oh, the whole left did this. It's the same as like any other topic, whether it's, quote unquote riots versus protesting. All these topics, you guys are being used against each other. I hope you realize that. And little dweeby, little fuckface dudes like this are doing it like they're trying to get you to do that. Little guy right here is trying to get you to do things. And like you have to really like understand that. It's not, oh my God, the entire left is celebrating Charlie Kirk dying. Like we all knew, like common sense people already knew that off rip. But it's nice that someone like went through all of that in the showcase. Like it's a minority of people, along with everything else that's typically, blown up on media, in media, whether mainstream or social media. These quote unquote influencers and just people that quasi work for the White House, like this fuckface does, or the Benny Johnsons or the Tim Pools that are screaming civil war every 5 fucking seconds. They're trying to trick you into fighting each other, because if you knew what these guys were doing, you'd flip a shit. And they can't have that. That's inconvenient for business. They need you to fight each other instead. And that's why I find some value in this video. Once again, not fully agreeing with the person. Not saying this guy could be full of shit for all I know. But at the very least, on the surface, narrative-wise, he will point out some things towards like, what if this isn't actually the case and they're out here screaming for new hate crime legislation? Or, new tracking IDs to find out if you're, trans or not. Like, well, I'm not trans, I don't have to worry about that. Guess what? They come for you too. Was it 9/11 about Islamic terrorism? But who went through TSA? It was you. Right? Bin Laden wasn't walking through fucking, x-ray machines. You were the guys that had to eat the shit for that. Let's continue.
Of why certain
It's simple,
marginalized
but it
communities
has to be said
should
for
always
some
be
reason.
offered solidarity because they
some
are
reason,
often
some
a
people need
canary in
that
the coal
explained to
mine when
them.
it comes to
Crazy.
right-wing panics. Usually attacks will start towards trans community before
get
targeting
insulted,
the
get
left more
fucking angry,
broadly.
bro.
And this is
Get
true of a lot
actually
of other marginalized communities.
What if?
The online dogpiling and targeting of random people is nothing new, of course. Accounts like Libs of TikTok have built an entire career around publicly shaming people for
This lady's
social
full of
media
shit.
posts and other opinions
On Tucker
often
Carlson
expressed
show,
in private.
obviously.
But the murder of Charlie Kirk has charged this activity to new levels. A month later, we're still seeing attempts to stoke outrage like editorial cartoons that supposedly call for violence. It's trivially easy to find people on the right being hypocrites about this. For example, a group chat of people in the Young Republicans organization, which includes members
This is
ranging
probably
from the
him playing
ages
politics.
18 to 40 and include at least one White House staffer, were caught being incredibly bigoted and expressing their love for Hitler, were then
Like I said, now you can see this guy's the team he might be playing for. Right? So pay attention to that as well. Like notice like the little team playing aspects. But here we go.
offended by the vice president as kids doing stupid things. I wouldn't call a 30-year-old person a kid myself, but catching them in this hypocrisy hardly seems to matter. If anything, it just reminds us that they are playing by a different set of rules. Before going on, I do want to mention the weird adulation of Charlie Kirk that he was getting on the right. It was all really strange to see. Republican politicians started using him in campaign ads.
They took a shot at President Trump. They assassinated Charlie Kirk. And they crushed working families with inflation.
Flags were lowered. He was posthumously given the Medal of Freedom. Legislation was introduced to put his face on a commemorative coin. And there's even a push to create a Charlie Kirk monument. This is separate from the weird sculptures of him and Jesus Christ looking, well, pretty close. There are numerous other over-the-top
That's a
tributes,
major
such as
pause.
saying he could have been
Jesus.
the 13th disciple.
No pun
If I
intended.
were a Christian, all of this would probably bother me, but as a non-believer, it just seems deeply weird. It also feels a bit like revisionist history. Although Charlie Kirk did have a high profile on the right, the sanctification of him after his death seems to dwarf his real public profile when he was alive. I knew who he was, and anyone who follows politics was probably vaguely aware of him at the very least. I don't think the average person actually knew who he was. But after his death, suddenly everyone is there talking about him as if he was this pivotal figure. Charlie Kirk's memorial service had over 90,000 people in attendance, which is more than the Turning Point USA's big event, America Fest, even if you combine all 4 years that thing was running. Also, to be clear, I am making an estimate in its first year that it didn't have over 45,000 attendees, which is a safe bet because the biggest room at the venue they hosted it at has a capacity of less than 27,000 people. And when you look at photos of what happened, it doesn't look like they filled up the room to capacity. The social media mob getting dozens of people fired for their posts dwarfs any single event in the supposed cancel culture crisis of years past, though there was one high-profile example that seemed to mirror that particular moral panic. I'm sure many of you heard of the Jimmy Kimmel saga, so I'll just give you the short version. He told a joke, the SEC chair, Brendan Carr, made a threatening comment about it towards his broadcaster, ABC, and with a corporate merger in the balance, Kimmel's show was pulled by ABC. After public outcry, though, Kimmel was eventually brought back to television, and he is still doing his show as I write this. There's a New York Times article I've linked below if you want to learn more about how this specific outrage cycle was created, originally stoked by right-wing commentators and then fueled even more by comments from the FCC chair. But what this small incident demonstrates is the heavy hand the federal government was starting to use to regulate speech. Luckily, it was forced to pull back after public pressure, but it's clear that it's hardly the only response seen at that level of government to clamp down on things it finds inconvenient. Following Kirk's death, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller described what the plan would be going forward to target the left.
But the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence.
At the time of that,
If you can't tell that human being's a fucking dweeb, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, you might be one yourself. Like, look in the mirror, maybe. That dude is a little dweeb, little fuckface, begging for more homework over the weekend, little motherfucker, bro. I guarantee it. That's all I needed from that guy. That's all I needed to hear from him. Like, look at him and hear him talk. Like, this guy's a fucking loser, bro. Straight up. Little dweeb, little fuckface. Someone needs to pull him aside. Hey, man, let's go smoke some weed, listen to fucking albums, listen to music, and chill out, bro. Get the stick out of your ass. No pause. There we go.
The radical left organizations in this country
If
that
this
are
guy's your
fomenting
hero,
violence.
you fucked up.
At the time of that airing,
fucked up
and
bad.
as I write this over a month later, there is still no link that has been shared between the alleged shooter and any left-wing group. It's obviously very irresponsible of Miller to say as much, but this is less about responding to facts on the ground and more about enacting an agenda he's always wanted to push.
That guy's the dweeb that's snitching on Batman in Batman movies. That's who that fucking guy is. You could smell it a mile away. I know who Batman is. I know who it is. Dweeb. Here we go.
Article in Rolling Stone went into detail about how enacting an agenda he's always wanted to push. An article in Rolling Stone went into detail about how much of a pretext Kirk's murder was for the whole operation. Part of the article reads, several of the president's advisors tell Rolling Stone something
that wrong?
felt off, even to a few
know
of the
Batman.
long-time hardened denizens of
Wayne.
Trumpland. There were barely,
Shut up.
if any, senior law enforcement personnel who believed that the suspect in the Kirk shooting had acted as part of a terror network or had conspired with any organization of the left. That was never really on anyone's radar to any serious degree, says one senior administration official. The Trump administration wasn't writing new plans so much as ramping up its ongoing blitz to consolidate power and to silence any and all dissent and scrutiny, from late-night comedians to liberal groups and activists to news outlets. Simply put, Trump and the GOP want scalps piled up. Figuratively speaking, they insist, as quickly as possible. We need to use our anti-terrorism laws, our RICO statutes, our conspiracy statutes. We need to use every tool in our law enforcement arsenal to crush these left-wing terrorists legally, financially, and politically, and to cut off their funding sources and throw them in prison. Mike Davis, a conservative attorney close to Trump, tells Rolling Stone. George Soros and the octopus of his left-wing organizations must be investigated. NGOs importing and harboring illegal aliens must be investigated. Nobody is above the law. I'm very excited for these Democrats to face criminal probes for their real crimes. Justice is coming, and justice is best served cold.
Now, these same things, most likely, will be done from the other team. If something happened to one of their guys, straight up. That has been the history of things. We've seen it time and time out. I just beg, once again, I know that there could be some sort of quote-unquote right-leaning people that listen to this, and they're like, oh my God, it's coming from a leftist. Turn my brain off. Don't turn your brain off. It's the same shit that will be used against you at some point. Once again, different quote-unquote teams on the surface, but in reality, the higher apparatus, these government apparatus people, kind of operate the same way. The Democrats won't be rude about it, and they'll use bigger words when describing why they're doing what they're doing. But guess what? They're doing the same fucking thing. And you need to, actually digest that. I beg you to. I actually beg you to. Because I can't do shit. As far as, my ideas of, what a better world would look like, I can't do anything without other people. Socially, that is. I can work on me. I'm fine. But I can't work on other people for them. I can't do that. So it's I'm begging you, just not to disagree with me, but to keep your ears open and actually, ingest and then digest what's being said here. And then think for then be yourself from there. It's pretty simple. And actually look back through the records. Man, have Democrats ever done anything like this? Of course they have. But then you have right now Republicans doing it. Do you just flip teams every fucking 4 years? Or do you actually hey, they're both screwing us over. The fuck? You guys pretend to be different, but you're still fucking me over. All right, here we go.
For their real crimes.
That's all I ask.
Justice
Simple
is
ask.
coming, and justice
Think
is
for
best
yourself.
served
It's simple
cold.
as. Critical thinking.
Much like the
Simple
social
ask.
media shaming campaigns, this article makes it clear the targeting of left-wing groups is not because of Charlie Kirk's
Maybe not
murder,
easy,
but
but
rather
definitely
is
simple.
using that murder as a pretext for something that was always on the agenda. On September 22nd, the White House issued an executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. The United States doesn't typically designate domestic terrorist organizations, at least not publicly. More often, domestic terror is publicly categorized in the much broader and vaguer category of threats to highlight specific ideologies instead of groups. The designation of threats was always a bit of a problem. A report from 2013 explained. The actors who constitute each of the domestic terrorist threats outlined by the Department of Justice draw upon ideologies whose expression largely involves constitutionally protected activity. There are several examples of ideologies that have been branded as threats in the past. While some are more obviously toxic, such as white supremacy, others, such as animal rights groups and environmentalist groups, raise the question of when does activism become terrorism? And while this is a very difficult and thorny thing to navigate and has certainly been used against groups unjustly in history, at the very least, even using this designation, people had to be a member of some group or organization that provably exists. By declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, it goes further by grouping anyone who espouses that principle as inherently part of an organization connected to illegal activity, one that is connected by a supposed left-wing conspiracy to break the law. A memo issued on September 25th went into greater detail highlighting the various identifiers of Antifa, including being anti-capitalist, anti-Christianity, and extremism on race and gender, whatever that's supposed to mean. An article for the Brennan Center of Justice went into detail about how this designation is not only unfounded, but could be used as a pretext for persecuting people on the basis of their political beliefs rather than any sort of illegal activity. Anyone on the left familiar with organizing that has an anti-fascist element can tell you how ridiculous the Antifa conspiracy is. Antifa is not an organization,
Those fucking frogs,
but rather
bro.
a principle. There are groups that have the word Antifa
Oh, he's got a
in their
cape
name,
now. Oh, fuck.
and there are some that work together. But to consider them and all other anti-fascist groups as part of this same organization is to not understand the basics of what anti-fascism is, or more accurately, the difference between a group and what a group believes. As a point of comparison, one principle that's been top of my mind lately has been anti-abortion. Although they typically label themselves as pro-life, as Brian E. Clare put it more accurately, pro-forced birth may be a better fit. Regardless of what label you want to use, a wide variety of tactics to advance this cause have been taken by different people and groups over the decades. Most of those actions have been peaceful, but there have been many incidents of violence, including murder, bombings, and arson. The existence of this violence doesn't mean that anybody who is pro-life is part of a terrorist organization. In some cases, they may not be part of any organization at all. It could simply describe how they vote. And if they are in an organization, it might just be one of those groups that prays to try and make things better. And while pro-life individuals and groups, I think, are absolutely taking away a woman's right to decide what to do with her own body, not every pro-life group is the same, and they don't all plot to murder doctors or blow up their offices. Being anti-fascist doesn't mean you're part of any organization, and even if you are, it doesn't mean that that organization is breaking any kind of law or should be considered a terrorist group. Even if there are anti-fascist groups going out there and committing crimes, or if there are individuals who describe themselves as anti-fascist who go out there and commit acts of violence, to twist that into being a single organization working in some kind of conspiracy is a grotesque lie. An article in the BBC interviewed several experts on their opinion on the designation. Here's an excerpt from that article. Brad Evans, professor of political violence at Bath University, warned that Antifa's lack of an organizational structure and membership offers a remarkable opportunity to extend the government's remit and apply it to anybody who may be assumed to belong to an organization that is ill-defined. This means that anybody suspected of belonging to Antifa would need to disprove their association. The dangers of overreach are all too apparent. Others interviewed in this article were less alarming, mentioning constitutional protections that should keep people from being unjustly prosecuted. Though considering the state of constitutional protections under the Trump administration, those rights seem increasingly insecure. On October 8th, the White House held an embarrassing roundtable with several supposed experts on Antifa, though most of them were right-wing social media figures who often pose as journalists. Much of what was discussed here...
Oh, this guy right here, he is one of the dweebiest humans I've ever seen, exist. He was made in a lab, and someone, spilled the dweeb beaker into the fucking pot that made this fool. They overdid it. He's too dweeby. Too fucking dweeby. Mr. President, right here, I have a flag that was being burned, Mr. President. Fucking little dweeby little fuckface, bro. Sorry, listen, guys. I do a lot of shit talking. There's a point behind it. I have arguments for it. I just don't care to right now. I just want to make fun of these fucking idiots. It is what it is. Let's continue.
Revealed a shocking ignorance of Antifa. Here's Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, showing us how little she knows.
One of the individuals we arrested recently in Portland was the girlfriend of one of the founders of Antifa.
I'm assuming this girlfriend is dating the first baby to be on Mussolini. One of the few people here who was more knowledgeable was Jack Posobiec, who dropped this bit of trivia.
Antifa has been around in various iterations for almost 100 years in some instances, going back to the Weimar Republic in Germany.
Quite famously, Antifa was active in Weimar Germany fighting the Nazis. But Jack has always been a fan of dog whistles. Here's a great moment from the press conference.
I do understand the challenge, as Andy pointed out, with Antifa as a graspable entity. I do. But at the end of the day, when you look at behavior, you prosecute behavior, right? We're not prosecuting ideas or ideology. You're prosecuting behaviors.
If the only thing being prosecuted are behaviors, why would Antifa need to be designated a terrorist organization? Assault is already illegal, as is a number of other crimes connected to people.
Sorry, let me back up. I just want to point out that, remember people's arguments for Second Amendment and gun rights, right? It's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. Sometimes they use guns, right? Kind of like a similar concept, right? Damn, what am I thinking of? Because certain things that are already designated crimes, so you don't need to extra enforce them because they're already crimes in the first place, right? Or actually, that's probably leans more towards free speech, right? As far as the typical argument. as like in that context. Oh, you don't need to like legislate this thing because it's already a crime, right? Hopefully, I would assume that right wingers would understand that argument because it's been used in regards to many different things, right? Murder's already a crime. Fuck you. Why are you punishing guns for murders? Murders are already crimes, right? Owning a gun isn't the real isn't the real denominator of like what is a crime or not. It's more so that you committed a crime. You committed murder, or you used a gun for theft, right? Those are already crimes. You don't need to like extra legislate them. And that same thing's going to apply to the logic that this guy, Jose, I guess, is going to say. Here we go.
If the only thing being prosecuted are behaviors, why would Antifa need to be designated a terrorist organization? Assault is already illegal, as is a number of other crimes connected to people who are supposedly anti-fascist. If you provide material support to someone committing a crime, such as paying them, that is also already illegal. The whole purpose of labeling a group a terrorist organization is that any material support to said organization can be considered criminal, and by broadly applying that label, organizations that are vaguely associated with the left can also be labeled as criminal. It's all a very clear move to criminalize a political ideology. In August of 2025, well before Charlie Kirk's murder, Stephen Miller went on Sean Hannity's show and said this.
The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization.
This is how he was speaking about a rival political party. The anecdotes he cites are tenuously tied to them as a pretext to label them as a domestic terror threat. The lesson here is that Charlie Kirk's death is once again being used by opportunists in the government to go after political rivals, from political parties to activists. Speaking at a rally memorializing Charlie Kirk's death, the aforementioned Jack Posobiec said it quite explicitly.
You see, the difference between murder and sacrifice is that sacrifice is a gift.
Charlie Kirk's death is indeed a gift to help accelerate a full-scale persecution of the left. While governmental persecution is obviously very important, which is why I opened with it, I also want to talk about how right-wing influencers have also been using Charlie Kirk's death. One of the loudest voices on YouTube talking about him is Candace Owens. She has been getting millions of views every day as she claims to be investigating his murder. Owens owes a lot to Charlie Kirk and Turning Points USA for more or less introducing her to the world of conservative media, eventually leading to her joining the Daily Wire and then going solo to massive success. She and Kirk were friends, so her initial response was a memorial to their friendship. But I'm not really interested in their personal connection, but rather I wanted to look at the investigation Owens would launch in her next video. I've covered Candace Owens' investigations in the past, and to put it frankly, I was not terribly impressed. Going into these Charlie Kirk videos, I couldn't exactly forget that past experience, but I was willing to at least hear her out, because I certainly don't trust the FBI led by Kash Patel. We also have to take into consideration law enforcement here includes local and state police in Utah, and while they aren't as silly as a man who once wrote a children's book about Donald Trump, as a general rule, I think it's good to express skepticism towards law enforcement. I think it's too early to be definitive about why the alleged shooter might have done anything, but in spite of her skeptical posture, Candace Owens is far less patient, and she has advanced several vague theories of her own. Her first proper show after the death of Charlie Kirk expressed outrage over the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, going on television claiming that Charlie Kirk was a great friend to Israel and reading from a letter that Charlie Kirk had sent to him.
I'm saying you're severely misrepresenting the contents that in May, Charlie was concerned about Israel and their influence on American politics and how they were pushing things that he felt were in conflict with his beliefs, free speech.
Although there would be leaks Owens would reveal several weeks later, initially these were the ones she was really teasing. The contents of this letter did eventually get revealed, and while Candace Owens originally claimed it was Charlie Kirk moving away from his long-standing support of Israel, the Netanyahu letter is actually 7 pages of Charlie Kirk expressing his deep support for Israel and offering social media strategies to help them win the propaganda war online. When the truth came out, Owens responded like this.
We're supposed to believe, did he send that as an email, by the way? Can somebody clarify, was that an email they were sharing, or did he send it in the mail to him? Could somebody share that, please? I'm assuming it was an email. Can someone share the timestamp on that? Just kind of like authenticate that email, because I'm very aware of what's going on.
She's just flailing around in this clip, and she claims to know about Charlie Kirk's mindset.
About 48 hours.
Now, I will say this because I know a lot of people they like what Candace has been doing, quote unquote, pushing the envelope, no pun intended. But for me, at least, I've seen some kind of flubs and flaws in narrative of what she does, and also tactics she uses to get information are also a little bit weird to me. Basically like, hey, come talk to me. If you don't answer the phone, I might bring you up in my show and make you famous. Just not going to be good for that person, most likely, right? And she had, once again, during this time period, she's kind of dropped off since then. Not too much drop off. She's probably like 80, 90,000 concurrent viewers. Before it was like 200,000 people watching simultaneously, which is kind of crazy. And she'd be strong-arming people for information. Yeah. Now it's like, but I understand people that are like, yo, she's just looking for answers. Let her do her thing. I understand. I just can't say morally I'm okay with that. And also, there be sometimes she would give us like information where it's like, oh, okay, I didn't even hear about this shit. Okay, Candace's breaking news. This story right here. But the little narratives in between her messaging, that would almost make you look in a direction if you're not being a critical thinker, right? If you're actually just absorbing everything she's saying without even thinking about it, yeah, you would assume once again, it's just my point of view. I can't say I know whether Israel has something to do with this or not, but logically, for me personally at least, I don't see a reason why the government of Israel would be involved in killing Charlie Kirk. I don't see it. I don't see why they would do that. He was doing all the work they needed as far as dealing with American people here, right? Especially the youth, where Charlie's getting pushback from them, right? About Israel, why are we giving them money? And sometimes the genocide that's happening right now, hey, what's going on, right? But Charlie would seemingly do his best to kind of deflect off of that or defend it or maybe change the topic. He did that with Dave Smith and Josh Hammer debating each other. Charlie Kirk was deflecting on behalf of Josh Hammer, it looked like, in my opinion, from watching that debate. And then obviously the messages that Candace shares, I see money problems more so than ideological problems. Right? Hey, you're taking money from me? All right, fuck you then. All right, maybe you don't want me around, huh? Fuck you then. Right? And honestly, I think damn near any marketer or psychologist or sociologist, if I had to guess, if they looked at the scenario and said, hey, if you guys take out Charlie Kirk, will this help you or hurt you? And it's most likely it'll hurt you because you're the first names they're going to bring up, bro. It's the first motherfuckers they will bring up. Candace will do that. Tucker will do that. And obviously all these other people will do that. Actually, funny enough, Nick Fuentes didn't do that, which is crazy, right? On the surface, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, typically it's you'd expect as if you're a marketer, if Charlie Kirk got shot and killed in front of everyone, what would be the reaction? Especially in the climate that was happening in September of this year. Yeah, people would be like, yo, what did Israel do? Where are they at? Did they do anything about this? Were they involved in this? That'd be some of the first questions. Now, maybe they're brash enough to do that, but they also need the FBI, so thus the U.S. is also involved, right? They would need the way the FBI has handled this. They need the way the White House has handled this. So they'd have to be the U.S. and Israel doing an operation to take out Charlie Kirk. I'm like, okay, for what reason? And I don't see it as Charlie was going to turn on Israel as like the reason. Oh my God, Charlie Kirk might say I don't like Israel anymore. Is that big of a fucking deal? I don't think so, personally. I really don't. And in fact, they do what they did, right? Pull funding. Well, they, as in like that donor who believes this or they like that guy would pull funding, 100%, and others would too. And then that would be like the fucking over of Charlie Kirk, and he'd become another internet guy. He'd have his own corner of the internet, some loyal followers, some people that are like, "Fuck you, Charlie, you betrayed us," and he'd move on. That's it. Someone would replace him. Maybe a new organization, whatever. It would not be the craziest, biggest deal ever, in my humble opinion. But, you know, I look at Candace, and I get a feeling that she has like kind of a little bit of a narcissistic thing happening, to where she needs to be in the center of all these fucking stories. So it's like, you're not going to shut me up, Israel, huh? You're not going to do that. Meanwhile, like, maybe someone's just like, not even paying attention to Candace Owens right now. Maybe on the PR side, some people are. But as far as, like, taking her out or killing her or some shit because of words she says on the internet, I don't see that either. It wouldn't be worth it, honestly. She's not saying enough substantial things. She's not. She's saying internet things that have been around here around YouTube, actually, in particular, like, for years and years and years. She's just repeating them. So she's not actually a threat. Not really. Especially when you see all the other foreign policy ventures of the U.S., of Israel, of Saudi Arabia, of all these different countries, right? And all their foreign policy ventures and geopolitical maneuverings. And Candace gives no mention of that at all. She's not a fucking threat. I'm sorry, she's not. It'll get her views and attention and money, but I don't see her as some sort of scary freedom fighter person. I don't see it. At least not yet. Maybe I'll see that one day, but I don't see that yet. I don't see it at all. In fact, all I see is psychopathic Oprah. But you know what? I'll shut up now. Let's continue. Yeah.
Round in this clip, and she claims to know about Charlie Kirk's mindset.
About 48 hours before Charlie Kirk died, Charlie informed people at Turning Point, as well as Jewish donors and a rabbi, that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright. Okay, Charlie was done. He said it explicitly, that he refused to be bullied anymore by the Jewish donors. Can you guys answer? Did he express that? Did he also express that he wanted to bring me, Candace Owens, back because he was standing up for himself? And then did he, just 48 hours later, conveniently catch a bullet to the throat before our onstage reunion could happen?
She would later post text messages that supposedly prove this, though honestly, they just make Charlie Kirk seem like a mercenary, advocating for Israel for money rather than any deep principled belief. While perhaps his dedication to the Zionist cause was wavering, because at least according to the messages Candace Owens shared, they weren't paying him anymore, it doesn't match this internal conflict that she's claiming he had and so far hasn't really presented any good evidence of. According to Candace Owens, it's not that a Jewish donor pulled her funding. Originally, she was saying that Charlie Kirk refused to take money from Netanyahu because he was upset with Israel's actions.
I definitively made the statement that Bibi Netanyahu offered Charlie Kirk a boatload of money, and he rejected it.
I think she believed that the letter Netanyahu got from Kirk said that, and when that letter was revealed to be more of a love letter and an application to get a job, she pivoted towards these text messages, which still don't really confirm what she was saying earlier, but since it shows Charlie Kirk was saying different things in private than he was in public, it vaguely resembles what she's trying to suggest, and I guess that's good enough for her. She still claims to have other bits of information, but we haven't seen any of that yet. Her not sharing these receipts publicly is very ironic, considering one of her major complaints about this murder investigation is that various entities are withholding footage and other forms of evidence. She demands law enforcement, Turning Points USA, and anyone linked to the event to release any piece of evidence she considers important. But when Candace Owens holds onto evidence, it's for some supposedly high-minded reason, like wanting a guilty conscience to prevail. Although the truth is that she is always strongest when implying lies by omission. It's how a lot of her investigations work. She'll find an instance of someone not explicitly saying something, or some kind of nebulous information that may very well exist, and then claiming that since this information isn't public, it implies that whatever conspiracy she's thought up must be true. It's a very intricate strategy, and it's a great way of advancing a conspiracy theory without actually having evidence. You just claim that someone else has the evidence and they're not sharing it with us. Another aspect of these videos is Candace Owens is trying to draw a direct line between herself and Charlie Kirk.
I can tell you right now, from the energy that is coming out of him, the energy that's coming out of Meghan, is where I was 2 years ago. Okay? I've been there.
Candace Owens several times presents Charlie Kirk moving in her direction, and I suspect she wants his audience to see that too, particularly the part of his audience predisposed to enjoying conspiracy theories. In a later video, she makes it clear that she doesn't want to take over for Charlie Kirk.
Is unlike those ill-begotten heirs on the show, I have a 0% interest in Charlie's empire.
But later in the same video, she says that Kirk has come to her in a dream and is encouraging her investigation.
Had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. And so for me, you don't have to believe that, but I do believe that.
It's all very weird stuff, and I think it's meant to present her as some kind of spiritual successor to Charlie Kirk. Not the person who will take over Turning Points USA, but one who is more than happy to scoop up his audience as she presents Charlie Kirk as aligned with her and Turning Points USA as an organization that betrayed him.
Now, I can't say I know that, but that is an interesting idea. And yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with her wanting to be the head of tpusa at all. I mean, she's much more valuable with a smaller crew, raking in a good amount of money while doing so. If she was doing the grifty thing, right? If she's doing it strictly for views and content. And it's great. Now, to be honest, I've been saying this since we've been watching the Candace videos. It screams like a TV series. It really does. Like, I'm like borderline, like in the back of my head, like kind of like executive producing, like just like, okay, what's happening here? Okay. So clearly, okay, the narrative's going to go this way. You need the fans to hang on, just hang on a little bit longer, keep going. Okay, keep hanging on to the story. And then once things get like settled down, then boom, I don't trust Erica Kirk anymore. Maybe she's the one that's, you know, a part of this whole thing, right? But she's been nice to Erica Kirk. But I wonder if one day she's like, guys, I tried to ignore it. I didn't want to see it myself, but now I do. Erica Kirk has something to do with this. And then boom. Leaves you with that, goes on vacation for 3 weeks, comes back, it's like, drops the season finale, you know, comes back, season premiere. Let's investigate Erica Kirk. She's a part of this fucking orphanage and yada, yada, yada. You can probably fill in the blanks from there. Pause. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it looks like that quite a bit from the outside. I mean, I look at all these stylized things, from her cadences to some of the voices, the laughing, her signature on the fucking screen. Everything reminds me of Oprah. It really does. It just reminds me of Oprah. And, you know, your, you know, evening, get off of work TV show. As soon as you get home, turn on the fucking Oprah and watch whatever she's talking about that day. And you can't just, like, in the way Candace is doing it, you can't just, like, release everything she has right away, right? You have to, like, kind of like make it last for, like, weeks and weeks and weeks, because it's an actual series. In fact, I think she actually describes her Brigitte Macron or Ryan Reynolds. She describes them as series, as like you know, here's season 1 of Ryan Reynolds, here's season 2 of Ryan Reynolds, like almost like that. And she almost presents it like the Charlie Kirk thing, like that way, to where if she has a day where she doesn't have like as much information as she might want to have, she will still do something about that topic, if that makes sense. And she will make it last like almost like filling like a time slot, and like NBC 5 o'clock time slot, 5 to 6 p.m. right time slot. She will stretch the content out, reach there, and then like actually time it with ads and all that shit. It's like, damn, man, this is just like TV. It's basically like TV. But at the same time, I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I can't say I know she's, being full of shit here. I've seen her full of shit in other areas, but in this particular case, I can't say she's just full of shit. All I can say is like what I'm seeing. Not as a fucking fanboy, as just a person observing what I'm observing. Hopefully you understand what I mean, and you're not gonna, oh my God, Candace is amazing. Why are they trying to stop her then, huh, Jordan, huh? Huh, YellBro? Why are they trying to stop Candace? Well, they tried to stop Trump too, didn't they? Look what you got. They tried to stop Alex Jones. Look what you got. In regards to supporting these guys because someone that you don't like went after them on the surface, once again, not even behind closed doors, but on the surface they went after them, right? Or maybe one of these content creators are implying that someone's going after them. The deep state, the Democrats, the Israeli lobby, whatever enemy you want to pick out, right? Whatever bad guy you want to pick out for yourself, because they're going after them. Does that make them righteous or legitimate? I can't say that. So thus I have to keep my fucking mind open and honest and free instead of just fanboying for Candace. If I thought differently, I would say differently. So, like, at the very least, I can say that, But, all right, either way, I'll shut up. Let's keep playing. Here we go.
Kirk as aligned with her and Turning Points USA as an organization that betrayed him. His feelings on Israel and the supposed betrayal of Turning Points USA are all connected to try to express where Charlie Kirk's head was at the time he was killed. When pressed on the matter, Candace Owens will always say that she is not directly stating that Israel or Turning Points USA are involved in any way in Charlie Kirk's murder, but considering her videos are basically spending half their time talking about how Charlie Kirk's murder is incredibly suspicious and the details don't add up, and then switching gears to talk about how Charlie Kirk was under pressure from Israel and being betrayed by his organization, the implication, I think, is very clear. Although she has a broader implication that she's trying to make, when it comes to the individual points and small little theories she likes to float out there, she'll often say things that make absolutely no sense. And when she claims to be following the evidence, oftentimes that takes the shape of anonymous sources. Throughout this investigation, I have tried to count all the various anonymous people who are surprisingly close to the story who have chosen Candace Owens to be a person they speak to. Here's a brief list of some of the unnamed sources she claims to have reached out to her. She's spoken to the alleged shooter's classmate, someone who knew the alleged shooter's family, people who lived in the alleged shooter's neighborhood, someone who knows someone who shot a video that briefly caught the alleged shooter on a building while panning the crowd, the family of the alleged shooter's romantic partner, someone, or possibly someones, from Turning Points USA who were present at the event or connected to people who were present, someone who recorded a video that supposedly includes a woman who met the alleged shooter that day, someone who is connected to the doctors and nurses who worked on Charlie Kirk at the hospital after he was shot, and my favorite, a random commenter on her chat.
Now, if Candace, I'll pause it for a second so you can read that, but if Candace is being just honest and getting these sources, anonymous sources, whether it's on the surface or anonymous sources, whatever, if she's doing that honestly, I have zero problems with this. I honestly, when it comes to certain topics that you're trying to get, you're kind of in the dark on, take any information you can get, essentially. That's what I would do personally. I'm not saying it, I wouldn't say okay, this is the truth because this anonymous person told me about it. Right? I can't do that. But I'm saying I would listen. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if Candace is full of shit, which I'm sorry, but that is distinctly possible to me. I'm not saying that is the case at all, by the way. On this particular case right here with Charlie Kirk, I'm not outright saying Candace Owens is full of shit on it. Not yet. Not yet. But at the same time, has she been full of shit on other things in the past to me? You bet your ass she has. In my opinion. And because I had that context, I can't just say, like, oh, well, Candace is being honest and, she's protecting her sources. Like, I can't just run with a narrative. I leave room for the possibility of things, But if she was being honest, these things are like whatever to me. Like, I don't care about journalistic fucking criteria things, right? I care about people just being people. And if she's just being a person and caring about her friend, I'm sorry, I'll listen to her all day and night over someone that doesn't care, but that's selling me a narrative, right? But here we go.
Hospital after he was shot. And my favorite, a random commenter on her chat. Whenever Candace Owens is light on information, which is constant as the investigation hasn't been releasing too much lately, these anonymous sources pop up. Owens claims to be vetting them, though she never really explains how. Considering her track record, I don't have a lot of faith in her ability to vet anything. For those unfamiliar with journalism, anonymous sources may sound romantic, but they're actually really bad to use. The reason major outlets and certain journalists sometimes do use them is because they have spent years, sometimes decades, building their credibility with factual reporting. To make up an anonymous source would be to risk that credibility, and should only be done for stories important enough to take that risk. So it's assumed that one would be very careful with using an anonymous source, because it could destroy one's credibility and maybe lead to a costly lawsuit. But Candace Owens doesn't have any credibility. She spent the last year trying to prove Brigitte Macron is secretly her husband's father, or that Harvey Weinstein was wrongfully convicted, or that Kamala Harris lied about how black she is. So her use of anonymous sources are hard to take seriously unless she produces information on how she vetted her source or some kind of physical evidence like the videos she's supposedly seen. Quite frequently, she's grasping at straws in these videos trying to make any random point into a nefarious connection. For example, the alleged shooter couldn't have done it because he just doesn't have the face of someone who's killed a person a few hours ago.
Unless that man is a cold-blooded killer. He just seems to be la-di-da, eating some Dairy Queen, and it's not making sense.
She's gone on about random people in Facebook photos, Republican politicians trying to make...
Well, I believe that Dairy Queen was taken down. Then again, the person that reported that was George Webb, as far as I'm aware, is not so trustworthy either, but maybe he was just looking for a scoop and found something. So maybe it did happen. Can't say I know. But, all right, here we go.
Man is a cold-blooded killer. He just seems to be la-di-da, eating some Dairy Queen, and it's not making sense.
She's gone on about random people in Facebook photos, Republican politicians trying to make hay of the event, and just about anything vaguely connected to that day gets weaved into the conspiracy. Perhaps most nefariously, she even brings up a suspicious valve company.
I just find that the manufacturing of valves keeps coming up when I look into certain people, because, I'm all about the genealogy, and I could name 3 people that I got curious about whose family manufactures valves. I don't know if that's a big business out in Utah.
The people who provided footage of the shooter to police happened to work for this valve company, which, wouldn't you know it, is connected to Israel and Turning Points USA.
Then somebody emailed us, and this was strange. We have not been able to corroborate this. We can tell you the link was real, and that but we don't know if the internet was scraping and got things incorrect. But there was an Israeli individual who was listed as the founder of Caldera Engineering. They opted to, in their very early years of their company, use a lawyer for trademark purposes down in Arizona, right? And I'm looking at these early documents, and I'm like, wait a second. I know this lawyer. This lawyer was introduced to me by Tyler Boyer at Turning Point USA.
A source tips off Candace Owens. This source tells her that the captured video seen on TMZ is hiding context. That's footage of the shooter walking through a neighborhood. The person whose camera captured that footage works for a valve company. That valve company was founded by an Israeli. A lawyer who worked with that valve company 25 years ago has, in some capacity, worked with Turning Points USA. What this is supposed to evidence, I'm not too sure. What it's supposed to imply, I think, is very obvious. That Israel and Turning Points USA are in some way implicated with Charlie Kirk's murder. This is the type of investigation Candace Owens does, following random clues and arbitrary directions from nebulous sources, all motivated by the conclusions she wants her audience to have. And her audience is very capable of putting together the pieces that Zionist funding of Turning Points USA is linked to Kirk's murder.
What do you do in a person?
So, I mean, I could see that as a very distinct possibility. I can consider that for sure. Now, to be fair, this guy should go over the 30-06 stuff, right? And that's something where I've heard damn near everyone that I have a belief understands guns in some form or fashion, where they just don't believe it. They don't believe it. And this guy, Jose, is leaving that out, which I believe he does. Leaving that idea out from Candace, right, and her coverage of things, that'd be unfair because that's something that like really just doesn't make sense, right? And you know, maybe he's afraid of giving her credibility or some form or fashion, but I thought the point is to be like the good guys, right? Be blatantly honest, as in like, here's some legitimacy from Candace that I believe is like legit information. Maybe he doesn't believe that at all. I'll be fair in regards to him as well. But as far as I understand, even though there's a lot of, you know, in my opinion, like quasi dog whistling and say, Israel and Israel and Israel, right? Because that's like a topic to do right now, right? Even before Charlie died, right? That was the thing to do in political commentary, right? Almost like, in my opinion, like kind of like walking past the whole massacring of other people became more so about like the sensational nature of bringing up Israel in regards to every fucking topic, you know, ever apparently. Even though that's the case, like I hear that, but still, the gun and the caliber of the gun. My nose is running again. Fuck. The caliber of the gun, like, even Candace sounds pretty accurate about that. And it should be like, why not showcase things that you maybe believe in or maybe agree with, right? But maybe it's more so, maybe he's just going for a straight up takedown of Candace. Either way, let's keep playing. Just trying to be fair. Here we go.
That Zionist funding of Turning Points USA is linked to Kirk's murder.
What do you do when a person has such high morals they will never do anything that you can use to blackmail them, and they won't take your money to say lies? Charlie Kirk couldn't be bought or blackmailed, and that is why they took him out. That is your theory that you are presenting there, Mia.
Evidence obviously wasn't leading Candace Owens on this journey, and at least she's honest about it because there's something else.
Hold on, she didn't use that for evidence, though. She's just reading their comment. But then again, that could be, you know, a ringer type of comment where they don't show it on screen, right? And she could just make up comments and read them. Not saying she's doing that, Candace fans. Just saying you have to be aware of the possibility of that, right? But I can believe someone saying these statements here. I think it's if that's a real person saying that, I think they'd, yeah, maybe listen too hard to Candace and thus got wrapped up in the whole Israel does everything, apparently. While also claiming, hey, man, you know, like nothing, we're not doing anything anti-Semitic. And I'm not calling them anti-Semitic. I'm just saying, when you say these things, it gives these guys that want to use that as an excuse to blow people up or do harmful things around the world. Yeah, they will use this as ammo. They would. Not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm saying that's what they do. So I don't like it's whatever. Here we go. Let's continue.
Isn't leading Candace Owens on this journey, and at least she's honest about it because there's something else that's pushing her along.
Everything just spiritually feels very wrong here. What is happening right now in the world and what just happened to my friend Charlie Kirk is a battle of sheer evil versus goodness.
It's all very similar to stuff you would hear from Alex Jones. She even cites Alex Jones a few times in her videos. She's also borrowed his phraseology of being beyond the left-right paradigm to describe her investigation into Charlie Kirk's death, although she still...
I'm sorry, but like, I'm not going with guilt by association, but like, dumb by association. Yeah, if you say Alex Jones, like, yeah, Alex is a stand-up guy. He's legit. He's for real. He doesn't make anything up. He's ahead of the curve, right, Charlie Kirk? He just gets it. He just gets the information faster than we do. I'm like, you're at least dumb by association. Maybe not guilty, but definitely dumb by association. Alex Jones is such a full of shit artist, in my humble opinion. But here we go.
Left-right paradigm to describe her investigation into Charlie Kirk's death. Although she still identifies as a conservative, she's trying to position herself as some kind of spiritual bulwark against the forces of evil.
Something is weird about that. Spiritually, it's evil. That's what it is. It's evil.
Alex Jones didn't originate any of this stuff, by the way. It just seems like Candace Owens is very much trying to follow in his tradition of spinning together outlandish tales to grift off her audience. And of course, it wouldn't be a Candace Owens series of videos without dropping in some generic anti-Semitism as well.
Within Judaism, there are different sects. There just are. And we don't realize that. We don't know what they believe in. We just go, oh, well, it's Judaism. It's just, it's the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. No. There's also the Talmud. There's also the Kabbalah. And to just not actually study and understand all of those differences, it makes us extremely ignorant and very likely to be indoctrinated into one of those religions, convinced that it's actually modern science, which is what's actually happening, I think. We kind of live in a Kabbalist society.
It always blows my mind.
Yeah, I think she distinctly said in the very beginning of her statements that, like, hey, it's not just there's regular shit that people practice, and then there's like these other things that people practice. I think that's the area she was going in. So that's why I don't use these words like, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, you're racist. I don't fucking use these words. I don't use them because it's lacking in humans. It's just lacking humans in regards to it. Like, humans are distinct individuals, even if they try not to be. If they try to be like a collective, they still showcase individual, things. So thus, it requires like deeper reading beyond words they say out loud. That's just me. Let's continue.
Actually happening, I think. We kind of live in a Kabbalist society.
It always blows my mind when someone claims she's just suggesting or hinting at anti-Semitism when, if you watch her shows for a few weeks, you find countless examples of stuff like this. It's not a vague suggestion. She's pretty explicit with it. I think, though, it would be irresponsible of me to not include...
See, this guy, Jose, like, this is where I'm like, yo, you're like a fucking dingbat at this point because you're not really, like... You not see the trends of people following things? Maybe you don't like watch these guys enough. I don't know, or you don't pay attention to the audience enough. Maybe you pay attention to Candace Owens, but not the audience. And if you actually look at that, you'll see that there's like an actual fervor about Israel. So I can see her using that as a thing to, engage with these sensationalized stories of things, which garners a large audience. I'm telling, it is what it is. But he's not considering that. He's just calling it, oh, you're just racist. You're being racist or anti-Semitic. Sort of why would she be doing that? Is it because she hates Jewish people? Is that your honest opinion? Or does leaning into these narratives and ideas garner a fucking audience? And you can see that years before Candace said anything about Israel, like ever. You could see that thing. You could see it. It's a It is what it is. It's a curiosity. Like, hey, man, how come they do this and no one gets in trouble over there? How can we always protect them? How can we give them so much money? Right? It's inevitable. The pipe will burst. It has. It's bursted now. Especially when the government commits a blatant genocide in front of the entire world, all over the fucking internet, and the same influencers are protecting that country that's doing all these horrible things. right? Like, it is what it is. And even Charlie, even though he was like, he's a bend the knee type of guy, even he had like, hey guys, yo Netanyahu, yo Trump, listen, the youth, the kids I talk to are starting to complain about this particular topic. And I'm trying to help you out by letting you know. You know, it's like I'm trying to help you guys with all of this. Like, he knew, like, because the kids have the internet, they can see these things. Then they find out, you know, you're giving $3.8 to $4 billion a year to Israel. They find that out. They're like, wait a minute, why are we doing that when they're doing all this horrible shit? What the fuck? Right? Then we invade Iraq for less reasons, right? For right? Aren't we fucking with other countries for dumber or less reasons than what Israel's doing right now? It's going to break their brains, and that's what happened. And, you know, people like Candace will jump to the front of the line and say, hey, guys, I'll guide you. Follow me. I'll lead you to the promised land. Follow me. I'll tell you everything you need to know about Israel. Come on, follow me. Of course they're going to do that. Duh. Here we go.
She's pretty explicit with it. I think, though, it would be irresponsible of me to not include her mentioning that she actually does like some Jewish people.
It's also very good to not extend to everyone that is Jewish the viewpoints of this very radical sect that has a lot of power in America.
She says all of this to set up a clip of a Jewish comedian she enjoys.
What if Jews have been exaggerating this entire time? We got stuck in traffic on the way there. My girlfriend was like, let my people go! The beach was a little crowded. She said, there's like 6 million people here.
Huh. The joke she shows us is one where he denies the Holocaust. What are the odds, huh? To be fair to Gianmarco Soresi, he's not a Candace Owens guy.
They said Candace Owens played one of my jokes. I knew exactly which joke Candace Owens played.
Here's another joke of his that I thought was much better. This is part of a routine where he's talking about Charlie Kirk.
You know, he left behind a wife and 2 kids, which is how you know Israel didn't do it.
Before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I was working on another video about Nick Fuentes and how he was being credulously highlighted by more moderate platforms than his own, and
like
general
this,
discussion
like so
about the guy being far too positive.
It's like people that present themselves as like individual thinkers just somehow line up with so many fucking people. I'm like, damn, man. Even though like everyone is unique, right? No matter how hard they try, it's like, damn, man, I can smell where you borrowed shit from. And that's just sad. That's this guy and Candace and Nick. How come I can just smell? I can smell where you came from as far as like the thing that you think is a fully formed adult, which is actually just a fucking baby, to be honest with you. It is what it is. Like, you could just smell. Like, I can see where you got your ideas from. And it's like almost borrowed instead of like really existentially fought for. I fought for the right to be me, not from a rule book or a law or a country or a team, but versus myself. The things that makes me want to like, just fuck it, just shut up and say what the other guys are saying. That little thing right there that's so attractive and pulling, you fought that to be you. Like, hey man, I'm gonna wear this outfit. Oh fuck, people are looking at me. Oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let me go home and change my outfit. That thing, the thing you're trying to fight to be you. Instead, I smell where people get shit from, which is just sad. It's very sad. But I hope he's just authentically like that. Him, Nick, Candace, as sad as I think Candace and Nick's and this guy's ideas are, I hope it's authentic. I hope it's not borrowed from a book, a teacher, a parent, an influencer, a content creator, a celebrity, an infamous person, a president, a pope. I hope it's authentic. But I say good luck. Let's continue.
A lot of it is built off of commentary that is clipped in a way to appeal to a more moderate audience.
There's going to be groypers, look, that are not white. The problem in this country is not every single person that is not white. The problem is that we got 50 million people that came here in 30 years.
It's clear he's trying to rebrand himself as a more moderate conservative, but of course the mask still slips.
The last thing is you need some form of voluntary segregation. We cannot be forced to be integrated. This country has a lot of non-white people in it, and I hate to break it to you, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Nick, I told you, there's Nick Fuentes fans. There's going to be mixtapes for days. They could probably put 3 hours, 5 hours, maybe even more, of short clips, compilations, like just 5 hours of compilation of a mixtape of this fool saying things that no one fucking likes, except for him and his corner of the fucking internet. Once people hear that, I'd be like, ew, Nick Fuentes, ew. All right, sure, he goes after Israel, sure. Give him a fucking cookie for that. But other than that, he should be nowhere near like public office or his ideas anywhere near public office. That's what regular people will be thinking, Nick. And I fucking told you so, man. All right, whatever, here we go.
Nick Fuentes has long been a white nationalist, and there's a very prolific history of him using that rhetoric. There's also a history of him navigating media spaces by adjusting his message for whatever his audience is most open to believing, hopefully to then bring them to his home platform where he expresses more extreme messages. It's frustrating watching commentators inviting him on or discussing a clip of his with a lazy preface like, I don't agree with everything this guy has to say, but, and then nodding along to some lukewarm criticism of American foreign policy, criticism that has often been made by other, much better voices. After the murder of Charlie Kirk, we saw Nick Fuentes offer the usual condolences, although a month prior, he was saying stuff like this.
And you're telling Generation Z, buy a Hillsdale course, get a second job, observe the Shabbos, go to Turning Point? Fuck you. You are not ready for this.
When asked about his change in tone, he explained that he respected Charlie Kirk for his faith.
He's going for dunks, bro.
Touched people the most was his testimony of his faith, that he believed in God. And, you know, I didn't like what he advocated for politics, but what he advocated for Christianity. That's the part that people are going to remember him for.
It's a very carefully worded statement. It's very manicured because there are clips like this out there.
And someone who was on the payroll of a foreign state making excuses for war crimes is not somebody that you can trust on anything. That's not somebody that you can take the good with the bad. How can anybody take him seriously as a Christian?
This is, I imagine, waved aside with comments like these.
And I think, especially since he died, you look at him and you realize this guy was not actually the worst guy in the world. You know, he was kind of my nemesis in a way. And maybe I was his on the right wing. But I realized that we had so much more in common than we disagreed with, actually.
The common beliefs is...
It's funny how much Nick has kind of took from Trump's mannerisms. It's actually kind of funny when you look at it. He like stole. He took quite a bit from Donald Trump, actually, like mannerisms wise. Even the way he talks and the nasal breathing, like the hard nasal breathing. You could tell, like he took like a lot, and it's like, damn, man, is that your like? Because that's like a thing in psychology, actually. Like what an idea I've heard of, where it's like, oh, you know, you make these like kind of daddy figures in a way. Then at the same time, you want to like usurp your daddy, so then you have to like crush him at some point, right? And once again, this is not me like trying to shit on Nick. It's more of like just saying ideas that exist, and you can see his mannerism, even the way he dresses, like it screams a lot of Trumpy-ish style, like physical maneuvering around, and actual vocal patterns too. Actually, very interesting, but again, I may be looking too closely at it. Maybe. Here we go.
But I realized that we had so much more in common than we disagreed with, actually.
The common beliefs is approaching the truth, but it isn't as simple as Nick Fuentes having some kind of revelation. And all of this is neatly sidestepping the long history Fuentes has had with Kirk. Back in 2019, what was colorfully called the Groyper War saw Groypers, who were supporters of Nick Fuentes and his general ideology, crash various Turning Points USA events where they'd ask Charlie Kirk questions designed to make him look like a phony.
Can you prove that our white European ideals can be maintained if the country's majority is no longer made up of white European descendants?
I find that to be a racist question. I reject the idea behind it. I do not think America should become a white ethno-state as a country. In fact, I think that is a fringe perspective. I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to rationally push back against it every single time I come in contact with it.
5 years later, Charlie Kirk would start sounding more like the guys asking him questions.
The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white. They love it when America gets overwhelmed.
An article in Mother Jones highlighted this transformation. One excerpt reads, Kirk and his organization are starting to say the kinds of things that they used to cut ties with people over. Jared Holt, a researcher at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue who focuses on hate and extremism, has noticed the organization's increasing willingness to go there. You'd see them dip their toe in it, Holt said. They would talk about demographic shifts, but say it was about voter turnout instead of it being about a white America. At some point, it seems like they gave up doing that.
So, yeah, it's showcasing the we will adopt either, well, typically quietly adopt certain ideas. Not saying they actually believe that. The point is to trick you. That's my humble opinion about it. The goal, the point of quote unquote dog whistles or outright saying things is to trick you into supporting in their direction. Right? And Charlie can't just sit still. He's dealing with young people, right? And there's gonna be a lot of ideas out there. Like as we saw, the black dude to Charlie's left, his left, I believe it was like a gay military, ex-military guy or some shit like that, bro. I remember when those guys were like touring the country and Groypers would show up and ask them questions. I remember that shit, bro. But why was he doing that? He was doing that for the sake of what? Hey guys, hey gay people, we're not intolerant of who you are. Please join our team. Vote for us. Come join us, right? And then after a while, it became like, all right, we can't rock with gay people. Listen, man, they're trying to our birth rates are dropping. They're attacking white men left and right. Like all of a sudden, the narrative changes because the point is to what? Trick you and get your support, your blind support, right? Not honest support, blind support. And that was Charlie's job, bro. Like, let's not lie about that. That was his job. Do that. But, all right, here we go.
Past year, Kirk has shifted from fetishizing free markets to fetishizing whiteness, authoring tweets on how whiteness is great and there is an undeniable war on white people in the West,
late, by the way.
and about various innovations like owning property
Charlie Kirks
and
of the world are
abolishing
always late.
slavery
Always.
that he claims you can
They're
thank the
bots,
white European
essentially.
for. Although Nick Fuentes can't pretend that he and Charlie Kirk were friends, he can pay lip service to his memory and try to claw some of that audience towards him, something he's been doing for years, infiltrating any circle he can ingratiate himself in, say whatever pleasantries he can to make it appear as though they're on the same side, and then gradually urge them toward his white nationalist worldview. Meanwhile, his base continues to loudly cry for his more extreme views, pressuring the host to move rightwards towards Fuentes. It's a cynical.
So, but once again, like this guy's making it sound like it's not a business or it's not fuckery. Like there's a lot of fuckery in what, Nick, Tucker, Candace, Charlie. There's a lot of like bullshit happening. It's not fully authentic. But I guess this guy, because he's in most likely, team playing mode, and they'll do this thing with team playing on the quote unquote left, where they feel as though like, oh no, my answers are actually rational, and theirs are irrational. So that's why we all believe this, because we're all just being rational. Meanwhile, like they actually are just team playing. Most likely, like I'm just saying as a possibility. I can't say I know this Jose guy, but there's a good chance that's the case. And with that, you may not notice that some people do things for bullshit fucking reasons. It may not be the holy war you're looking for of right versus left. It might actually just be a bullshit game or a play, if you will. But let's continue. Here we go.
tactical ploy, but it's worked surprisingly well for him, partially because people seem to think they'll either outsmart the guy or win over his audience. The problem is the same one that always comes up when fighting with foolish people like him. They drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. Although Nick Fuentes felt the need to publicly say that neither he or any of his followers had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's death, that seems to have been an overreaction, as there hasn't been any real evidence so far that really connects the Groyper movement to Charlie Kirk's murder. But it's certainly true that Nick Fuentes has used Kirk's death as an opportunity to grow his influence under the guise of appearing contrite and respectful, things I've never seen him express genuinely. The real danger here, I think, is that while Fuentes probably won't have the institutional backing Kirk had, at least not for a little while longer, he's positioned not to convert a wide audience, but instead radicalize the conservative base, displacing the old guard's lackadaisical fascism with something far uglier and more aggressive.
Half Italian
and they're still running the same playbook.
Mannerisms.
Here they are targeting Glenn Beck so they can create little montages like this.
No one's clapping for Charlie was starting to notice about the Israel law.
Could I answer my question? Could I answer the question, please?
Well, okay. Besides Colonel Sanders here, are you America first or Israel first? Simple question. Like, the fuck does that even mean, you child? Hey, come on, come up the stage. Please use all of Nick's talking points. Borrow shit from a guy that borrows shit. Go ahead, I dare you to. And you're gonna get fucking pants in front of the fucking school. Not a good feeling. Allegedly. But, yeah. Good luck. Good luck repeating other people for your arguments. Good fucking luck. Doesn't work out too well when you talk to a regular fucking person. A real or regular fucking person. We're like, hey, man, they will do the Joe Rogan. Like, hey, man, you're like locked in, aren't you, man? You're like locked into this shit. It's like go outside and smell the fresh air once in a while, bro. Seriously, like that'll be the argument. Or that would wreck these guys' shit. Are you Israel first or America first? Not saying that Glenn Beck should be, you have a million things to criticize Glenn Beck about. But if we turn it into that shit, oh, God. It's an easy walkthrough. It's fucking pre-K. Like, come on, guys. But I bet it felt really good to say that. To scream that out loud. And to get Glenn Beck's attention. He's like, what the hell? Are you Israel first or America first? Charlie was America first. I bet that felt so fucking good. But guess what? In 5 years, I'll be like, what was I doing? What the fuck was I doing? Here we go.
And just to be extra clear to anyone who appreciates Fuentes' criticism of Israel, none of this is centered on the colonial project of Israel, which absolutely deserves criticism, but instead are choosing to echo anti-Semitic conspiracy
Colonial
theories.
project.
To paraphrase an old tweet.
Like the colonial project sounds like you borrowed that. Doesn't sound like that's your shit. That's my word. Like I came up with that shit. Colonial project sounds like you borrowed that from a textbook or a commentator or something like that. The colonial project? What? The fuck? Does anyone walk into a field seeing dead bodies everywhere say, oh my god, the colonial project? Does anyone actually do that as a real reaction? That'd be hard to believe. But don't worry. They'll tell me to shut up. Both Fuentes fans and Jose fans, they'll both equally tell me to shut up. And go back to fighting each other. With nonsense. Let's hit play. Here we go.
Centered on the colonial project of Israel, which absolutely deserves criticism, but instead are choosing to echo anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. To paraphrase an old tweet, under no circumstances do you gotta hand it to Nick Fuentes. Not all the voices eulogizing Kirk came from the right. Most notably, Ezra Klein wrote a tedious op-ed titled, Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. It seemed to rewrite Kirk's legacy into a man trying to have honest debate across college campuses when it more closely resembled a clip farming operation with hapless students without the same media training, memorized talking points, and post-conversation editing rights that are all designed to make Kirk look like a genius and anyone who disagreed look foolish. You probably don't need yet another deep dive into why this op-ed was not very good, so instead I'm going to skip ahead. Ta-Nehisi Coates responded to Klein's op-ed with one of his own, taking Klein to task for whitewashing the history of hatred that motivated Kirk's work, complete with examples of how this mockery of debate was used to advance an agenda. The two would eventually meet in conversation on Klein's podcast.
I wish people, instead of saying that an expressive or strategic question in politics was betraying or abandoning the people we wish to protect, I wish what we said was we lost power in a way that allowed Donald Trump to drive the Supreme Court to a 6-3 Republican majority. And that majority overturned Roe v. Wade.
In this conversation, it gives us a greater level of detail on what Klein was trying to say in his article, and he seems to have been most impressed by Kirk's ability to help his side attain power. So impressed that he seems less interested in how genuine any of it was, because he believes winning in politics is more about strategy and less about expressing one's values, unless those personal values can be expressed as a kind of strategy. There's always going to be a balance between strategy and principles, of course, because sometimes you have to settle for what's possible, even if it falls short of an ideal. But Klein's expressed preference in tactics leans so far towards strategy, it seems to be leaving behind some people that he promises would be better off if his side attained power, as the only strategy he seems to suggest is moving the Democratic Party to the right. While this narrow strategy might work in specific local ridings, it's interesting that these narrow exceptions always seem to involve moving the Democratic Party to the right, rather than areas where it might benefit people to move them to the left. It's almost as if the material benefits that a further left candidate might offer are less important in his mind than the strategic benefits a more conservative candidate might offer. It's missing an important difference between what he's trying to do and what Charlie Kirk was doing. Throughout his career, Kirk gradually moved towards the right, as described earlier. His vision of success was not just about bringing impressionable people in the center towards his side, but also reaching out to the further right to maintain the base. If we look at how his message changed over time, it's clear that Kirk was playing harder and harder towards that right-wing base, and arguably his most successful years were the ones playing to that more extreme side. Klein seems to have bought into this fiction that he was converting people from the middle rather than animating his base, and it mistakes what actual utility someone like Kirk has, and that is generating enthusiasm. While this is a lot harder to measure and perhaps difficult to tease out in its impact on electoral politics, enthusiasm is the difference between someone begrudgingly filling out a ballot and someone instead deciding to knock on doors, put up a sign on their lawn, or just talk to people in their lives about the upcoming election. How this impacts turnout, I'm not entirely sure, which is part of why I'm not entirely sure Charlie Kirk was as effective a political operator as he's often presented as. But for the purposes of this conversation, it seems to me that Klein is missing the point of the role Charlie Kirk filled and the value he offered. Someone generating clips on TikTok that were for conservatives to cheer on, rather than convince liberals of the supposed error of their ways. Coates understands this better and seems to have a much surer idea of what he's supposed to be doing in this particular moment. When Klein points out that more moderate voices are feeling left out, Coates provides a very good counterpoint on how it was difficult to keep the base enthused about the previous presidential campaign when it saw all these overtures towards people on the right.
I want you to take as seriously people who are in the tent and who are vulnerable and afraid. And if you have to convince them of something that's extremely, extremely uncomfortable, or tell them that you're taking a position that is extremely uncomfortable, I just think you owe them a little more. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
man.
That's fine. I'll take it.
Klein doesn't seem to be able to really grapple with this, at least in that moment. There's a moment I particularly liked in the conversation where Klein admits he doesn't know what his role is.
Like, would you define for me?
Hold on, because I believe the idea that he's kind of saying is kind of like the... Fuck, I'm forgetting his name already. Slanger? FD Slanger? Whatever the fuck his name is, bro. The dude with the dreads. Where they... Well, that guy went more towards, like, race as the reason why Kamala lost. I guess Klein's kind of... Or what Jose's saying that Klein is doing is... he's saying like, oh, you need to showcase more right-wing values to garner to pull people from the center closer to you, right, for votes, which is what people say is Kamala Harris's strategy when she ran in 2024. Those are not reasons why she lost. She lost because she's a fucking bot. She's a bot. Give me your platform. Give me Kamala Harris's platform and that little time period when she's campaigning, meaning like, pay for me to be here, be there, whatever, and I will run him out of the fucking water. I'll run Trump out of the fucking water. It'd be easy to do too, by the way. I get tired of these things that try to make things complicated. Like, no, it's not actually complicated. It really isn't. Point out the crimes of Donald Trump and you're good. It's simple. And show no abandon about it either. Like, this guy's corrupt. Here's how he's corrupt. Done. But Kamala can't actually do that. Right? She can't do it because her party's guilty of the same thing. But if she went on stage and said, you know what? I had a dream last night. And my dream said, fuck the Democratic Party. Fuck the Republican Party. You all fucking suck. Here's all your corruptions. Like, list them. Here's all your corruptions. And I'll repeat it anywhere anyone asks me. I'll repeat these corruptions that I'm saying to you right now, and just do it around, just tour the country doing that. And she would have ran over Donald Trump. It would not have been close, not even fucking close. But they can't do that. It's like Trump can't do it. I mean, Trump kind of did it. Borderline did it in his first run, right? With Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and shit like that. But they can't do it. Pause. As in, like, really lay out corruption that exists. That's on paper in existence. They can't actually do that. Because the parties would fall. And they don't work for us. They work for themselves. Anyways, here we go.
Liked in the conversation where Klein admits he doesn't know what his role is.
Like, would you define for me how you see, like, what your role is?
I don't know what my role is anymore. I'll be totally honest with you, man. I feel very conflicted about that question.
Your role is
Ta-Nehisi
to
Coates
live your
is
life,
more
have
aware
kids,
of his role in this moment. And this
die
is something
someday,
he expressed very clearly in his recent
move on
book,
with a
The
boring
Message,
life.
where he describes the job of a writer to contextualize
your
the present to the long history that came before it, to not simply
Same
be
with the
concerned
other
with
guy,
strategy,
most
but to
likely.
also speak with clarity on moral issues. It's an excellent read, particularly the second half of the book that describes his time visiting Palestine, which happened before October 7th, 2023. He writes with remarkable clarity about what he saw and the oppression the people there were living under.
See, my guess is this Coates guy, I've heard of him in different places, but not too much. I didn't read too much on him, but my guess is he's a man of the times. He's good as the world around him. As good or as bad as the world around him. Meaning, if a real good guy shows up, he might look like a fucking idiot. Sorry, that's just my opinion.
Did you not know about his trip to Palestine and everything?
No, I didn't know about
Yeah,
that.
he used to work for who? Josh, do you know what he worked for? That publication?
Who?
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Who the fuck? Who?
Washington Post, New York Times. That's my guess.
No, it's another one. Atlantic, maybe. Does that sound right?
Fair enough.
Who's the head guy at the Atlantic?
Is it because he's Jewish? Is that why you asked me?
No, I thought you might have followed this guy. Come on, you guys don't know this guy? He's really famous. And then
I've heard of his name.
He had a big like falling out with the Atlantic because he went to Palestine and he also went to Africa and he's like he had to face the fact that it was occupation and genocide or whatever. I don't think Gaza had tipped off yet, but not the way it is now. But anyway, so he had a very emotional reaction.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly. And he had to finish putting that, and he had to write about it in his book, and he had to kind of come out because he had kind of attacked people in the past for supporting Palestine, so he had to kind of eat some crow, but he did it very gracefully, I thought, and sincerely it seemed. I mean, you never know, but so yeah, he was an important person, like coming over and saying he's sorry that he didn't understand this and that he had to,
Kind of begs the question, what else doesn't he understand?
Well, I mean, for any of us, though, we have to have a little compassion and humility, right? And all I can say is if
Sure,
you're willing
compassion,
to learn and change and say you're sorry, what more can you ask of a human being? That we're all like sinners and we all have our blind spots.
Okay. Once again, when I say man of the times, I think it still applies, as in he saw a relative bad in the world that he already existed in. Meaning, if I take this guy and put him in fucking Genghis Khan, Mongolia or some shit like that, dead bodies on the ground might not bother him. Versus the righteous person that worked hard. It doesn't matter what time period you're fucking in. Wrong is wrong. That's what I mean by man of the times. As good as the world around him type of shit. I would say work harder. But once again, I was guessing. I don't know this person. I don't know too much about them. Just the way he's talking and the ideas I'm hearing here. My guess would be, Kyle Kalinske, man of the times, until Kyle gives up and goes on a midlife crisis bender. That's all I got. Here we go.
Particularly strong passage reads, "This elevation of complexity over justice is part and parcel of the effort to forge a story of Palestine told solely by the colonizer, an effort that extends to the prescribing of boycotts by American states, the revocation of articles by journals, the expulsion of students from universities, the dismissal of news anchors by skittish networks, the shooting of journalists by army snipers, and the car bombing of novelists by spy agencies. No other story, save one that enables theft, can be tolerated." Statements like these are often countered by claiming they don't acknowledge the complex political reality of the relationship Israel has with Palestine. However, Coates sees his role not as someone who places morals as subservient to the practical, but rather points out how that complexity is used to obstruct the simplicity of the moral reality. The contrast between Klein and Coates I'm trying to make here is not their relative stances on Palestine, but rather their ability to meet the moment they're in. Klein operates as though his role is to act as a vessel that can help his side achieve power to do a general good, whereas Coates is more interested in describing injustice as he sees it and then using that credibility to urge people into political action. Although I wouldn't put Klein in the same category of people trying to capitalize on Kirk's death, I did want to mention him because his response is similar to conservatives who saw in Charlie whatever they needed to see. And for Klein, I think it was a justification of his approach to politics that emphasized achieving power over expressing values. Having a left-wing Charlie Kirk who acted like a vessel for financial interests to shepherd young people into supporting a political party that offered token support to those issues might help win an election, but it's not as effective as creating meaningful political change.
But that already exists as far as left-wing Charlie Kirks. Or sorry, in words, left-wing. And you can relate them to Charlie Kirk and his behaviors. They already exist. We've already seen it. Hopefully this guy covers that stuff too, right? Like I hope he like well-meaningly, like honestly believes in a certain direction and will not and refuses to be bullshitted. That's the best I can hope for. But all right, here we go.
When Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, The Message, came out, he faced some real headwinds when he tried talking about it on various programs. As someone who would be seen as part of the liberal establishment, Coates was making a very sharp break by siding with the Palestinian people and was very much a minority in more mainstream news outlets when it came to taking that position. Ironically, we see the void being filled by all 9 commentators on the left, but also on the right, to speak to a moral injustice that was plain for everyone to see. And while it might not have been technically the most tactical stance to take, as support for Palestinians who are being slaughtered typically led to vilification and could have some sort of professional consequences, by not filling in that void, it let people like Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens step into it themselves. And I'll even be critical of myself because even though I've pointed out the genocide in some videos in the past, and I do ask myself sometimes, could I have said more? Could I have made it a greater emphasis of my own messaging? And I think the answer is yes, I could have done better. There are certainly worse offenders out there, but I think this is a very important.
I'll respect that. In words, I can't say I know you as a person, but in words, I'll respect that. Like that's the demand from people trying to do good in the world. You have to always strive. Like whatever you're doing is not good enough. Over and over, like whatever you do, Not good enough. Do more. Do better. That is the demand from nature itself. Or God, if you like. Here we go.
Answer is yes, I could have done better. There are certainly worse offenders out there, but I think this is a very important moment for the left to reflect on where we stood on this particular issue and
now
where
we're on
we'll stand
teams.
on issues in the future.
Beautiful.
The value the conservative movement saw in Charlie Kirk was the assumption that he could bridge the divide between youth culture and conservative messaging, delivering a new crop of voters to Republican politics. I think it would be a simplification to say he was just there to deliver talking points. Rather, he was also there to measure the vibe on college campuses and to deliver those talking points in a way that was amenable to the students. If that meant emphasizing white identity grievance, he would do that. If that meant hitting religion harder, he would do that too. All the while working within a framework expected by his wealthy donors. It's a very mercenary thing to do, but it speaks to how his activism was something manicured for certain audiences. I saw this post on Blue Sky shortly after Kirk died, and it was something that was reposted from Facebook, that described how someone mourning Charlie Kirk's death was utterly shocked to find some of his more hateful rhetoric. In turn, this person shared a version of Kirk they knew spouting largely inoffensive Christian motivational speeches. For her, in her social media algorithm, that's what she saw, and it was perfectly nice. Part of the reason I didn't go into too much detail in this video about what Charlie Kirk truly believed is because to the people looking to turn his legacy into an inheritance, it doesn't matter what he believed. He said enough things that sound like what they want to do that they'll co-opt it anyway. During the big rally that doubled as a memorial for Charlie Kirk, a lot of people commented on how tacky and inappropriate it seemed. But to be honest, from what I do know of him, it seems like that's the sort of thing Charlie Kirk would have wanted, making the most of a tragedy to advance the political agenda he spent his life advocating for, urging people towards a vague type of Christian nationalism that has been co-opted by the Republican Party. As for the people grifting off his legacy, I have no idea how you would feel about that. It certainly follows the long tradition of exploiting news stories to advance an agenda, which is something that Charlie Kirk would certainly recognize as he did a bit of that himself. But I wonder how he would feel, and anyone who might find themselves in a similar position.
Who's this talking?
How would they feel knowing that when they die, it won't be the truth of the situation that will matter to people so much
Can I
as
comment?
their ability to weave it into a political...
All opinions are welcome, Amy. Please go ahead.
Okay, I know you're stuck. I'm sorry. The problem is that it's very difficult, I think, for people on the left to understand how, like, especially Christian people look at things if they actually are Christian, that it's not just, well, and also that political activism is about marketing and bringing people together, because even if you know there's all these different things that are right, when you're trying to get to channel energy into a political candidate or set of candidates to move the needle a little bit, you can't just do everything all at once. You do have to prioritize and strategize, and that's not necessarily being a sellout or an opportunist, but like when you're already talking about political candidacies and everything, you're talking about harvesting the reality that is already there, and you're not able, like, you can shape things a little bit, but you're more harvesting what people already think. So, to call that, whatever, I don't know, I can't remember the term exactly, but it's not necessarily disingenuous, or to take the money and then get the people. People are trying to do that to do the things that they think are better, and that's the system that we have. And so there are people that face that system. Like, I've known people that ran for office, like Cynthia McKinney. I've met her. I think she's a genuine person, and she wanted to make positive change, and she had to play in the system that exists. So, and then those other people like Candace Owens, he calls her grifter. She's actually, I think, trying to raise questions about his murder and the organization and abuse of that organization, maybe abuse of his trust even, and his hands-off strategy. And Nick Fuentes, I mean, they were opponents, but he's not lying about that. And then there's still a movement that needs to go on. And I just don't think that people on the left understand how isolated people on the right feel on a college campus, and that he did help people form a community that is needed and shouldn't really be needed if our universities allowed people to come and have whatever beliefs they honestly held and advocate for them and debate them and raise, challenge each other like it's supposed to. So I think, that reality isn't really appreciated.
Fair enough, but even a preschooler can appreciate, the idea of, okay, hey, I have this thing that's where I stand against murder. I stand against murder, right? But I'm just one person. No one's listening to me. So you know what? I will actually do infractions in other areas, like moral infractions, not by anyone else's standard, by their own standards, infractions. I will do these infractions in order to make money, in order to pay people to join me, in order to make a stand against murder. Now, that is prioritizing, but at the same time, you can't look past the infractions, right? That's just me being fair with Charlie too, by the way.
What's the infraction?
I'm not.
What are you saying is?
Oh.
See, that's the thing, though. I feel like everyone's so quick to judge what people's motive and intent, and they don't know the other person's heart, and that's what we've been kind of encouraged into doing on all sides, and it's making it harder.
Do your best to hear me out, Amy. To listen to what I'm saying. I didn't say Charlie Kirk did this, right? I'm saying I gave you an example of why people might have a problem with certain behaviors, as I would too. Now, let's go to Charlie. As far as my opinion of Charlie, I don't think he was there with the most righteous reason. I don't think he's there for righteous reasons. I don't think he even knows what the fuck that is, to be honest with you. I think it was most likely conditioning, a mixture of conditioning, and then him figuring out how the game is played, and then him getting frustrated with the game, but still playing the game anyways, because you kind of have to, because if you leave the game, you're just some guy. You're not, like, although Charlie was the face of tpusa, they could replace him without killing him. They could replace him. Like, oh, Charlie, said this or did that, so Charlie's gone now. And Charlie's like, you know what? Or maybe Charlie would leave himself. Like, hey, I don't like the way these things are happening here. I'm leaving. In which case, job done at that point. I'm just saying, like, as the face and the head of tpusa, like, when he was doing that shit, I don't think this guy had a fucking clue in regards to any idea of righteousness. Now, someone could be well-meaning. They could mean well. Like, hey, I want to make the world a better place. This is the way to do it. But guess what? If I had to guess, he knew that the wheels had to be greased. In fact, that text that Candace showed everyone, heavily implies that. Like, hey, man, these guys aren't going to pay me money. They're like, donors are going to drop. Well, maybe I give up on this Israel cause, huh? How about that? Maybe I bring Candace on tour with me, huh? How about that, huh? Like, it's almost like a little bit of a snooty, like, go fuck yourself for fucking with me response instead of king of righteousness style thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what if you found yourself in bed with people because you thought you're doing the same stuff? They're bringing money, like they really think this message is important and they want to help you, and then you're bringing young people because you're reaching them and listening to them and they feel supported, like especially the leaders that are organizing.
As long as you tie in that text message, keep going. Tie it in though.
Yeah. So then the point is, then it gets to a point where you realize, wait, now I'm feeling like a prostitute where I thought this was like a consent thing, right? Then what do? Does that mean you were disingenuous going up to that point? Does that mean the other people were? Maybe everybody thought they were going on the same trip, and then it becomes clear at some later point, wait, we have a different vision. Now what?
Well, if I follow that logic, and Charlie, like, okay, tying that to Charlie's logic, then his actual, like, how do I know you care? Well, you gave me money. Would have to be the logic of Charlie at that point, right? Meaning, like, you pulled money out, which means you don't even care about what I'm doing anymore, so fuck you, right? But that means it's attached to money and not righteousness, right? As far as, like, you're a good person, that's why you're doing this, instead of, like, kind of, what's the word? Condition-based instead of, like, unconditional, right? Like, this is what you believe. It's unconditional versus money, which is conditional, right?
No, well, not necessarily. Like, if you believe something, like right now in California, they just passed this ridiculous 50. I'm sure they pass because like it was the only thing on the ballot. The only people that are going to go to vote are the ones to vote for
Prop
it.
50 or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to have less say over who our Congress people are and less representation, less chance that if you're not in the major party that you have any say whatsoever, like they already did on our local elections with our city councils and whatnot and county. But anyway, so that happened. But so there are people who are really against that and think it's a really bad idea. And some people have a lot of time and energy to fight it, and then some people don't, but they have money to put behind it because they know that they have to like have resources and infrastructure and messaging and ad buying, and so that takes money. So just because you give money doesn't mean you're a mercenary or something, or trying to buy submission. It can be a cooperation where and some people give in the money and the work.
Okay, but why wouldn't you
So
just believe them that, like, okay, we have a genuine human disagreement here. It's not about, you're not paying me for ideas to say. You actually believe this, so thus why can't I talk to them as a person? Why is it you took $2 million from me, so now I'm mad at you. I'm against you now. Why would that be the thing?
Well,
Shouldn't it be
I
about
mean, I can see
like,
it
hey,
from
we have a
both
disagreement with
sides.
ideas?
Well, you gave the money and then that person, you thought it was going to go in one direction and then it veers a little from what you were expecting. And then you feel, like it wasn't what you thought. And I could see how the person who gave the money could feel bad. And I could feel how the person who's taking the money would feel like, wait, just because I thought you're contributing to our effort and trusting our leadership. And this is where we want to go, because guess what? We did this focus group and the kids aren't going to come with us. And then we're nothing, because that's the whole point, is to have a voice for kids and getting young people involved in everything, and they're not interested in that anymore. And so whatever Charlie Kirk himself believed, you can sometimes, without being a sellout or a fake, trying to create, like, see this community, like, especially if you thought like the religious people would bring more morality, whatever the particular issues, even if you didn't totally agree on this issue or that. Because I think he wasn't really for the gay thing, but he felt like that was what people wanted, and so he's bringing people together to vote in the big tent and all that kind of stuff. And then people weren't for that, so he kind of moved on that. Is that because, oh well, that's where the votes are? Like, you just don't know. So and not everyone who's trying to bring people together is like a fraud or a poser. And so I just think we have to have more compassion for how hard it is to get people to work together and be able to have a voice. And unfortunately, with the representative democracy system, that is the way it works. And as someone who ran for office several times myself, I know how difficult it is, how much money it costs, how many things, like you can have fake people come in and manipulate you. That happened to Cynthia McKinney. This guy was supposed to like drive the vans for Get Out to Vote on election day. He ran off. He was supposed to be one driver. He ran off and took the keys to all the vans to sabotage.
But you have lines, right? Like lines that can't be crossed, right? What were Charlie's, in your opinion? Once again, we don't know, right? But if you had to guess, like, take a guess from. Like, I beg you to take a guess.
I think I would just say it's really hard to know, but I could I know people in that movement or Young Americans for Freedom or whatever, that I know what drives them to do it and why they think it's a good thing.
But give me a guess. Give me a guess of what Charlie's like. If you cross this line, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going the other direction, or whatever, or I'm leaving you behind. What would be his line?
It looked to me like he might have thought, and I know this happens to a lot of people, happened to myself. He might have thought that he was allowed to say whatever he thought based on the data before him, or based on what people were saying and where the movement's going. And then he finds out, no, there's these conditions that he maybe didn't realize until it was.
So he naturally said something. He naturally said something, and he found out, like, you can't say this.
Yeah, like he
really?
questioned the.
I thought he would, but okay, unless you're saying like
he questioned how did Israel not manage in this tiny country to do anything for 6 or 8 hours on October 7th.
But people do that with 9/11, right?
What?
People do that with 9/11, but that doesn't mean that they're against the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or whatever, or whoever, or even against George Bush himself. They may ask those questions though.
Yes,
right?
but when he asked those questions, he got attacked as being an anti-Semite and all this kind of stuff, and he was so shocked. At least that's how he looked. And he's like, "Look, I love Israel. I went to Israel, met my wife in Israel. I'm pro-Israel." Like when I personally argued with him, he was all pro-Israel, and that's all he could talk about. We couldn't even get to the issue barely. So about free speech. So yeah, so he was it makes sense to me that he could have been blindsided because he didn't really understand how it works and the
But
different.
that's okay. Unless you're saying okay, the letter to Netanyahu that would have to be fake, right?
No, because a lot of
How could
people
that
who
be
are for
real?
Israel.
How could that be real? But also you saying this at the same time, it doesn't make sense.
Well, because it's just like if you
He's
like
saying
anything,
there's a
you care.
rising up, and he's trying to give him strategies of like, hey, you have to do these PR things to deal with the uprising of people saying like, hey, what's going on with Israel, right? People are asking more questions about it. So thus he's telling Netanyahu in that letter, if it's real, he's telling him like, hey, you need to do like some new strategies. Try to help you guys out with like what was said about the Bill Ackman or whatever the fuck, the Hamptons meeting thing, right? Another idea that was said there is like, hey, I'm trying to help you guys out. Like the young people are questioning things about what's going on over here, and I'm trying to help you out PR wise, but you're not listening to me.
Right.
So how does that make sense with he had some genuine outward statements about this at the same time?
Well, he did. I mean, that questioning the October 7th, that was earlier on Patrick Bet David,
But
right?
people are saying those things, right? Charlie's
Yeah, but I
quite
mean,
late on damn near everything that you're giving credit for.
yes, but
He's
you just
quite late
admitted
on it.
you could not be against the US, but still wonder what happened there on 9/11. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean you hate the country. That doesn't mean
Exactly.
you don't want to support the country. He was supporting the country. He loved the country. He was indoctrinated into Christian Zionism. So he had
He
all of
questioned
that, and he
Epstein,
didn't.
right? But then he ended up
Hmm?
saying he questioned Epstein. Then he
Yes.
got the phone call and changed his mind on camera, right? Like his outward persona for what we get to see, right? As viewers, he changed his mind after he got the phone call, which was documented. Like it was his name documented
Yeah.
right there. It wasn't like suspicions. It was like
Yeah,
actually
there was this
documented.
other one
He
where
got a
he's
phone
like,
call.
I have to be careful what I say here. But just because you're trying to be diplomatic doesn't mean you're a phony. Some people get the phone call and it's like, I know what you're saying, and that's a good question, but if you ask this in public, then it's going to have this negative fallout. And people feel very sensitive because they think that there's a lot, big rise in anti-Semitism and all this kind of stuff. Like you could be prevailed upon and agree to do it, not because you're just a phony, but maybe you thought, okay, yeah, I
Hey, you
don't
can
have
mean
to say
well, but
that, or
I'm gonna
maybe we
call
have
you.
to.
You can mean well, but after a time, I'm gonna call you dumb. So
Well,
once
I
again,
mean,
either Charlie's a
the
dupe and a
reality
dummy,
is
or he's a part of it. That's where I go
when
to.
you're in a political movement like that, or you're a political office holder, you have to, you're in a position, and then if you're going to change, you have to go from the position you're in, and but it
Amy,
looks like.
Amy, stop. No. Amy, if you're running for office, they say, hey, we'll let you win if you say, uh, Israel has the right to exist, and October 7th was a terrible ordeal that, you know, traumatized the Jewish population, and we needed to destroy Hamas. Would you go on TV and say that because he said it's your only chance to win? Because, hey, winning will get you a chance to do some good, right? Would you say that? Would you compromise
Well,
on it?
I wouldn't, but I
Oh,
wasn't.
okay. Then what does that make
But I
Charlie
wasn't
then?
awful. But I
What are
also
Charlie's
wasn't.
lines? That's what I'm asking you. What are Charlie's lines? What are they? As far as your best guess. Your best guess.
Well, what I'm saying is, to be fair, I wasn't even close to getting elected to anything. So,
So you're saying
I
it could
was.
happen. You're leaving room for that could happen then. You're saying. Or no?
Well, it depends on
Oh, come
how,
on. Say no. Just say like I stand on my principles. I wouldn't do that. Just please do that for me. For Jordan, please say I stand on my principles. I wouldn't do that. I beg you to.
Well,
Please, Amy.
I wouldn't say something that I didn't believe was true. No. But
Thank God.
there are issues that aren't as black and white to me. And I can imagine a lot of people, they're not that black and white because they haven't studied them as much or know hardly
Are they
anything
for
about it.
Charlie though? We have evidence of him being aware like, "Hey guys, young people are starting to question what you're doing over here. What do I do about this?" We have that evidence,
Yeah, but
right?
Just because you hear, see, this is the thing that drives me crazy is people will be like, "Oh, well, I told them that there's a genocide in Gaza, and they didn't care, they didn't change their position." It's like, did they believe you though? Like, did they trust you? Did they think you were an authority? Did they think you were in a position to know, or do they think you're a crank, or you have some negative motive, or some other reason to dismiss you?
Then you're
Like, okay,
wrecking.
I told people that the vaccine isn't safe, but who the heck am I? Some mom.
But then you're wrecking the whole Candace thing, which is what this video is kind of going off of as well, right? Of that Charlie turned on Israel or some shit like that. So maybe he was like, listen, guys, like it's not even like I don't believe what these kids are saying. I'm just saying, like, let me help you out PR wise. So he was pro-Israel then.
Well, I think what happens is when you're in that kind of a situation, and he's probably a very busy person, he has little kids and all that, and he's holding this stuff together, and then he's getting this feedback, and then he's going to the people in Israel to try to help him answer that feedback, and then he's like, wait, that's thin gruel. That's not really going to work. And then he's like, maybe he expected they would have good answers, and they didn't. So, and then you realize you're in a contradiction, and then what do you do?
See how that look, but then you're saying his criticisms were just acting when it comes to Epstein. Maybe he was acting because the younger people are starting to make noise, or Republicans in general were making noise about Epstein. Say the same thing about Israel. Was he acting then as well? Possibly. We're like, oh no, I don't actually believe what they're saying. I'm just giving it like, I'm throwing them crackers, cookies and crackers to them to get them to shut the fuck up about it.
But he could have had like concerns, but not think he knows, right?
That's fair enough. Then why would he
Because
stop saying
isn't that
them?
the way a lot of these, well, because he's just asking questions, right? But then you're not allowed to ask questions on certain things, and then that's like a wake-up call. Like, wait, I thought we were in a free country. I thought we were allowed to ask all the questions we wanted, And that's sort of the crazy thing. It's not like
There's no
you have
evidence.
to say you have to say that well, that's what he said on the October 7th stuff. He was just asking, he was saying it's hard to believe that this and that, but it's not like if someone had a good explanation, and evidence that he couldn't be persuaded, right?
I'm going to go back to my original question again. Give me your best guess of a red line for Charlie Kirk. What is a line he cannot cross? Morally, politically, principles, whatever. What is a line that Charlie Kirk, that you believe, would not be able to cross? In your opinion, not saying the truth or what Charlie actually believed. I'm asking your opinion.
I could tell you.
Assuming he's actually dead, which I think is about 97% chance.
Okay.
I don't think he'd kill somebody.
Well, fair enough. I mean, well, Gaza's that's a little sketchy little area there as far as killing people.
Kill someone himself.
Yeah, but other people doing it.
Like, oh, it's a war. Things happen in war. It's a tragedy. Blah blah blah. Everybody talks themselves into that.
Okay. So, like,
you mean he couldn't pull the trigger himself? That's what you mean by he couldn't kill someone.
Okay, that's a red line. If a government
and I'm only
organization,
guessing, but it wouldn't surprise me if he couldn't kill someone.
The government organization walked up and was like, "Hey, listen, Charlie, the only way to stay in the club is to kill this person over here." He couldn't do it. Okay, fair enough. Do you have something like maybe closer to the reality we're dealing, like the most likely towards reality? Because I doubt someone told Charlie Kirk, "Hey, go kill someone," right? Do you have anything like closer to?
But isn't it possible that he felt like if these people are going to withdraw funding, if he's not willing to do what he didn't feel like comfortable with, like censoring important speakers in the America First movement, whether you agree with them or not, and it's supposed to be a big tent and everything, like it's one thing to include, like, of course gay people can be Republicans, but in the conservative movement, are they going to be a celebrated speaker and a leader? That doesn't really make sense if you're going for traditional morality. That's like a contradiction. But why are you going to not bring Tucker Carlson? Because of Israel, when you're
Tucker's not
claiming
really
to be
a threat
American?
either. But in my opinion, Tucker's not much of a threat. But I've seen more evidence of Charlie shutting things up than
to be not allowed to invite Tucker, and then money is on the line.
Okay.
that might have been a wake-up call that made him feel like, wait, I thought this was a free country. Like, on what basis are they're gonna use money to say we can't like have the full spectrum discussion among conservatives about what's best for America? Maybe that would have been shocking to him. And then he was done with it because he was getting harassed. He was getting smeared as an anti-Semite. He's seeing his friends that he trusts and respects, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with them. Because he was pretty, I mean, I think he did at least demonstrate some skill at getting along or being social, cordial, respectful to people he didn't agree with fully. But
Sure.
anyway, I don't know.
Do you consider the Josh Hammer release messages, is that bunk to you or is that real to you? In your opinion? Who knows, but like in your opinion, do you think that was real or do you think Josh Hammer fabricated those things?
Did it say, you know, your book is the best book ever written. I think everyone in the world should read it. Did it say that?
No, it doesn't. It says, "Thanks guys for having this talk with me." And you can see a Zoom call like time and like kind of timestamp. In Zoom call for whatever amount of time, like type of thing. Do you think that was bunk?
Yeah, so Hammer's story about that checks out with me, that he's trying to hold everyone together, and he's hoping that if they give him good understanding, that he will, he's trusted him in the past. So why wouldn't you go and say, I'm not expert on this issue. I'm getting these complaints, those complaints. How do you answer this? That can start out genuine and then lead you to a place where like, wait, that's not satisfying. I can't work with this.
But you don't
Well,
know
what the hell
that.
is this?
Well, I'm kind of tying it to the Candace narrative, which is, I guess, Israel a part of or Israel motive in regards to killing Charlie Kirk in the first place. And that message that Josh Hammer showed was 24 hours before Charlie died versus Candace's message, which is 48 hours before
Which
Charlie
one
died.
Josh's? What did he basically say with Josh Hammer?
No, well, we don't know what they were saying. All we saw was Charlie saying, "Thanks, guys, for coming and talking to me. Right? Like, I'm glad you guys thank you guys so much for talking."
Yeah, maybe he said, I
Right.
can't ever work with you again, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me, and you were so patient, and I feel really terrible about this because I know you guys are good people, and I just wish the world was a different place.
That is not what the
And then
message
the
said.
last sentence is, thanks for talking with me about this. So that's pretty vague. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Well, unless Josh Hammer deleted messages, it was that message from Charlie, and then right before it says you were on a Zoom call for whatever amount of time.
Right, but saying thanks for talking to me about this, that could be a lot of things, That doesn't say that they agreed or they parted.
What? Okay, so the way they spoke was through a phone call, and then a final message in writing was "Thanks for having me."
And by the way, I mean, Charlie did work for Josh Hammer when he debated Dave Smith. He did some work for him. This one? See, Zoom.
Hold on.
All right, on screen it says Zoom link for 6 p.m. Eastern meeting. Okay, that's just a message for before they do it, and then I assume this is after the meeting. It's an hour later, right? 7:50 p.m. Thank you for the help today, guys. Right. Thank you for the help today, guys.
As the campus visit starts, don't hesitate.
Unless this is a bullshit message, unless he just made this, right? Photoshopped it together.
Honored to be of assistance. Say hi to your Antifa friends. Say hi to your Antifa friends. He knew he was getting assassinated the next day.
Like I said, if you think it's bullshit, then fair enough. But yeah. All right, let me just fucking end this video. We can keep debating afterwards. But there's your video, YouTube. Thank you for watching. What? I never say thank you. Go fuck yourselves for watching. Please subscribe if you feel like. Comment, agree, disagree. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Anything about anything we say in this entire video. Don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We are in that Discord right now, arguing about things. So please, if you have opinions, whether in voice or in text, please join the Discord if you feel like. Nothing pornographic, nothing grotesque. That's all I ask for. And obviously, everything I showed you in this video will be linked in the description box / show notes. For you to watch yourself without us pausing, talking over it, whatever the fuck. Do what you do. And with all that said, most importantly, I think I skipped the last minute of the video. What? Who cares? All right? We win. YellBro wins. With all that said,
Give this video a thumbs up.
With all that said, give this video a thumbs down.